Hey guys, Chris here. Welcome to our studio. Some of you may remember me from the last time we did the webinar about photography and stuff like that and preparing for Skills Canada. What I'm going to talk to you about and expand a little bit more and actually give you some physical examples of some DIY, some do-it-yourself hacks that I use when I was a student as well as learning photography, and I still do use because it's always good to be a little bit economical when you're doing. First thing we're going to talk about is reflectors and gobos or flags. Reflectors is anything that will reflect light. You can use anything from Bristol board to industry-made reflectors like this here, as you can see. It's high and shiny and silvery on one side and it's white on the other one, right? But these do cost a little bit of money, so there are options for the cash conscious. Sorry, it's a little stuttering there. You can use like plastic-core here, which is basically the same stuff that you make your signs from or whatever, right? It does reflect light. It's not as shiny. If you want to make it shinier, you can put tin foil on it. You can actually get an emergency blanket, one of those ones that you find in your cars. I'll show that to you. So this is one of the pieces that you can use. Also, the thing is that you can actually use is foam. Like this here is foam core here. This is used for renovations normally. Right now it's painted black on one side and it's painted white on the other, which is really good because then you can use this as a flag or a gobo or white side as a reflector, and it's just, you can find this at like Home Depot or stuff like that, right? Also you got foam core, black and white foam core that you can get. Also too is that you can take your reflectors, if you have a 100% white reflector, what that's going to do is it's going to reflect the color of the light, right? If you want to change the color of the reflection, stuff like that, the light source that's being reflected, you can paint it. Like this one here, if you can see it, it's soft pink, right? It'll give a soft pinkish cast if it has daylight put upon it, right? And reflected into your subject, right? A little bit more of a tan sort of thing, right? Warm it up a bit. So basically, remember a couple things is that if it's 100% white, the reflector is going to reflect whatever light source it's coming into. So if it's like a light bulb, and it'll be warmish. If it's going to be daylight, it's going to be bright and very bluish, right? That being said, you can also use different materials. Different colored Bristol boards will actually act as a reflector, especially if it's Bristol board that's actually shiny, right? That has a bit of a sheen to it, right? Speaking about lighting, I'm just going to go grab something. I'll be right back. Here you go. Here's I made reference to the Pixar lamp. This is an articulated desk lamp. When I was learning, I did a lot of tabletop photography using figures, like action figures, and using a couple of these to actually create my light source, to actually learn about lighting. It's inexpensive. It is a way to get through and actually get some lighting and actually start learning about lighting, watching how it reflects, right? Watching how it creates shadows, because most of the time lighting is all about creating shadows. If you throw a lot of light at it, you won't have any shadows, but if you take your light and you move it around, you can create shadows and make things look 3D. So if you don't have flashes or studio strobes, tabletop lighting you can do with this type of light. Just remember, the bulbs are going to give you different temperatures, right? Different companies have different temperatures for the bulbs, but normally this type of bulb and just a regular light bulb generally will give you a very warm color. You can buy hue lights from different companies, and they can give you different color temperatures, right? You can buy the ones that will go through the spectrum of whites, and then you got ones that will go through the spectrum of white as well as different colors. So think about that. This is a easy solution. It's low cumbersome. It can be a little bothersome bringing it to the competition, but if you cannot afford to bring flashes, or you can always do it with table-type lamps, right? Especially if it's articulated, right? Hey, okay, so that's basically covers some of the stuff that I actually have in the studio here. I'm going to be taking you home to where I live, and I'm going to show you a couple other things, couple tricks and tips for a little bit of tabletop photography as well as some other DIY. So I'll see you at home. Hey guys, welcome home to my home. On my way here, I stopped off at Dollarama to pick up some supplies. Came to a whopping $4.73 to create some improvising white fields and black fields. Yeah, $4.73 at Dollarama. So what did I pick up? I picked up some white Bristol board for my white field. I picked up some black Bristol board for my dark field, or my black field, and also picked up some foam core, white foam core, so I can use it as a reflector. And also picked up some black foam core, which I already chopped up, and actually took one and wrapped it in tin foil to act as a reflector. Be aware though, using tin foil or emergency blankets for reflectors, they will have, if they're over crinkly or wrinkled or whatever, it'll actually create different types of lighting effects. It'll actually give it sort of a mottled sort of feel to it. So as you can see, as I'm reflecting sort of into there, if the light hits it right, it'll fill everything out if there's enough power to the light. But if there's a little bit of light, you can see that it actually creates little specular highlights, right? So just be aware of that. A couple other things that you can be using in the home: painter's tape to adhere your white field or your black field to the wall, or you can use poster putty. You can get that at Staples. I'm pretty sure you're all familiar with that. Also bulldogs. Bulldogs are really handy because you can actually use them, depending on the size, as feet for your gobos / flags and your reflectors. So also too, real simple, white trash bin liners. These typical garbage bags, they can actually be used to diffuse light. So if you have a really harsh light, or you want to soften up the light a little bit more, I'm just going to do it right here. You can see how it changes the light, softens up. The more you put it towards the subject, the more softening I'll get. So you can see it a little bit of affecting off the main light that's sitting up there. Also, speaking about lights, lights are, you can pretty much use almost anything for a lighting source. The quality of it's going to be very different because, remember, with lighting, it's all about the size of the light, right? If you remember from Sunny Days, light is really harsh and sharp, and you'll end up getting really, really hard shadows, right? But when it's a nice cloudy day, your eyes adjust naturally, and everything becomes softer, and all the shadows become a lot softer, and sometimes almost disappear because the light's being diffused by clouds, right? So remember, like if you're going to use a work light from a garage or a little pocket LED light, it's going to affect the quality of the light because of the size, right, and the intensity. So just remember that. I can't really speak to whatever lights you guys are going to be using. Hopefully you guys have access to having strobes and soft boxes. It'll make your life a whole lot easier. But if you're going to be using improvised lighting, like the Pixar lamp that I showed earlier today, or these types of lights, just be aware that you need to experiment with them and figure out actually how lights falls, right? So that being said, these are just a few other things that you could be using to set up for your photography and doing your high key and low key photography of stemware. It's going to be harder. It's going to be a very difficult task if you're going to use continuous lighting and alternate lighting sources than set up stuff. But the best way to do this is practice, and compare, right? So to you and your students, good luck. Have a good one, and I can't wait to see you next time we get together and do something like that. All right.